Friends, thanks for coming out tonight. All I can say is, in one word, gratitude. Joe and Gail, 27th anniversary and you're here. Leslie, you've done good. Thanks, Jake, for everything. In some ways, this is my 2008 election party, which I never had. You guys had a pretty good time. Friends from north, south, from my office that are here today, means a lot. Means a lot. Friends and supporters, together we can in a small state. I want to speak to you briefly about my time in Iraq, and then talk a little bit about the financial challenges that we have as a state, and why I think we can do the impossible, and we can do it well. I had to speak a few weeks ago for Memorial Day at a couple of events, and to try to prepare to speak to, in one case, an audience of Gold Star mothers and families. And I said the most important thing I could say to you tonight would be nothing. Would be silence. We had a lot of silence in the desert. And we don't have enough silence and intentional reflection in the United States. And if you're a religious person, maybe you need to turn off your radio as you're driving to work, and you say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Or maybe you just stop and say, "I expect and intend today to go well." I had a few of those days when I intended to have Neil and Shap work that out. The value of detachment, reflection, intentional. We need more of that. When I got back home, a journalist asked me, "What was it about Iraq that reminded you of Vermont?" I said, "Vermont? Maybe Arizona, but not Vermont." And of course, coming to mind was the generous Vermont products, the syrup, the Green Mountain coffee, the other items, the cookies, the things from home and from the office. Ray Cota, CPA, his pen. He made sure I brought it home safely. We took pictures of it. And then I thought, as I thought about the candy, I remembered, because I had a commercial driver's license, that was a good thing or a bad thing, I was filtered into the transportation unit. And I remember in October, rolling through some towns and sliding the window open, and us throwing candy out to kids in these Iraqi towns, these beat-up towns that look like Arizona with a trailer park. And the Marines, which led our convoys, the gun trucks up ahead, there'd be two in the front, two in the back, and one in the middle, usually. And they were throwing the glow sticks. And you'd see these kids out there scurrying around, running for the candy and jumping for the glow sticks. And for a moment in time, I wasn't in Iraq. I was a kid at the alumni parade in Bellows Falls. And we were running to see which car had the candy. Maybe it was Mike Obahosky. And million kids being kids. Kids being kids. And there was another time, which happened to be on the eve of the election. The eve of the election back here at home. And I was out on a convoy. I was waiting. We were staged. We had the water well team that we were bringing back to the base, but we were waiting for the Marines who were in a smaller convoy, and they were coming over and going to meet with us. And again, the silence, the solitude, the chance for a reflection. I mean, back home, 6,500 miles, whatever it was, you guys were having an election, you were having a good time. And I'm there, and I'm looking at the stars, and I'm thinking for a minute, boy, it'd be nice, beautiful, beautiful stars, majestic view. And I'm thinking, boy, it'd be nice to be on a deck right now with my wife looking at these stars. And I saw a falling star just then. It was magical. And then I started thinking about, as I looked at the same Big Dipper, Little Dipper, Milky Way, about being back in Bellows Falls. And if you ever pick those nights, you go out night crawling when the stars are out that way. And usually you're on Pat Cray's porch or somebody and you're figuring out the next day where you're going to go fishing. So for a moment, I'm out there with an M16, battle rattle, and I'm looking up at the sky, and I'm thinking, there's probably a few more things than war to be doing on a night like this. But we had a pretty successful mission, I'd say, over there. Only one of the convoys got hit by an IED, and that was just in the front toward the rollers, as they call them, like a big rake. Very successful. And for me, as TJ had kindly stated, I was an enlisted guy. So I was an E5 in dirt sailor, Seabees, not the National Guard, the Naval Mobile Construction Battalion, with a purpose to go over and support the Marines. And most people didn't know what I did. So you'd be at the cafeteria during the elections and people turn to me and go, "Can you believe all these politicians? They all lie." So for me, my mission was really to show up, shut up, stay on mission, and come back. And that's pretty much how it went. And I love the Seabees. I love the attitude that they had in World War II, which was can do. You find a way to do it. Doesn't matter what tool you have. If you find a way to get it done. And I thought of this when I was trying to intervene with the legislature and the administration regarding a budget solution versus an impasse, so that then they could address some of the larger and more severe issues that were coming ahead. And one of the sayings that the Seabees have, which I'll never forget, is the difficult we do it once, the impossible takes a little longer. And that's where I think we're at. And I recited that quote to the Joint Legislative Accountability Committee Monday, June 8th, when I went to present to them. And I said, we're living in an unprecedented time. You know, my dad uses a great quote about Socrates. He went around giving advice, so they poisoned him. David Walker has been speaking about some of the fiscal challenges federally over the last few years. David Coates has been echoing our challenges with the retirement fund. And some of the challenges that we have precede the stimulus package and the housing crisis and the credit crunch and the cost of doing business in the state. They relate to that we have, beginning in 2008, 72 million baby boomers coming online. And with that, it's their retirement as well as the Medicare that follows them in a few years. There's no time for debate, whether it's the Wall Street Journal or Forbes magazine or the USA Today, that we're living in a time where large corrective action needs to be taken, large reform. And I challenged the committee, the Joint Legislative Accountability Committee, that they have to create, as their charge is, some vehicles to move us from where we are to a place that can respond to $200 to $400 million in less revenues. And are they prepared to do that? Because my job with my giant flashlight is to ensure that they get busy in protecting Vermont's taxpayers and the state of Vermont and their duties. So I'm in a wonderful job in this economic time, a wonderful job, because I can be accused of being partisan, but in essence, the debate is much, much larger. So as we move forward, I'll just say this, again, that the impossible takes a little longer. It's really wonderful to be here tonight. The situation at home, while I was away, my wife, Leslie, handled the birthdays, the holidays, the campaign. I told Charlie and Ernie, my first campaign, what my secret was. They said, "How did you win in 2006? I said, "I was sleeping with my campaign manager." So, I'm blessed. And I return to my initial theme of gratitude. I'm blessed for my family. My dad was kind of the surrogate guy in the house, Grandpa Tom. And that's a great and wonderful byproduct of being in this business, of being in politics, is the people who have such fond recollection of my dad in various parts of the state. We live in the Northeast Kingdom, and people up there go, "What are you running as a Democrat? Your dad was a Republican." I said, no, he was a Democrat back when the Democrat was more like a Republican. So, Dale Shaft, private secretary right here, Joe Uhas, George Tabo, June Sweeney from my office, really kept the torch lit. David Coates has been a great ally in many ways. I could name everybody in here and the contributions to my universe. I'm very humbled by an opportunity to be before you and to serve you because I've been blessed. The CPA community gave me an award, and it was based on my contribution as a CPA to government, and I was humble, and I told Kai, who was the outgoing president-elect, that there was probably a lot more, there were a lot more other folks who could have gotten the award, and he said, yeah, nice try, but you're getting it. And the only thing I can say is that the magic of commitment breeds tremendous cooperation. So I'm very optimistic through this difficult time that we're going to address some of the things that make this state a place that we want to live in. And I'll say one final note, that the Vermont Council on Rural Development, I would say, if anything, they're left of center. But when they're saying that the biggest criticism of Vermont by the public is that we don't have a fiscal plan, or we don't have a good plan for the economy, or that the cost of living here is too high, we have to address that. And that's the challenge. Because if I ever get to the big office, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to be about reform and honesty and commitment. And I appreciate your help with me getting there. I may raise $200,000 as auditor, and if I have anything left, it'll be for the next pursuit. And I hope you'll help me get there, because anyone who knows how I work, I am brutally unafraid of any issue or any person. And I say the person piece because I try to stress that to people who are influenced by other influential people to keep them from doing the right thing. So I probably talk longer than I normally do, and I had deferred some of my time to the governor, but thanks a lot again for coming in. I want to thank you for coming today, and I want to thank the League of Cities and Towns, the other associations, the clerk treasurers, the GFOA, all the teammates. And that's not all of them. Can I see by a show of hands how many folks work in municipal government? Serving the public. Thank you. School government, school finance. Thank you. Serving the public. State government. Who do we have here from state government? No easy task. Who works in nonprofits other than, okay, who's working? And in the private sector, serving. Are there any financial consultants? Banks? Yes? Good. Trying to get a handle on who are we, because this is a journey today, a journey for us, this group, to foster teamwork. Now, I joked earlier that the title, which I could have used, is a recession is a terrible thing to waste. And that's been a phrase used lately about trying to increase transparency, increase government accountability during tough financial times. I do have to recognize a couple of people. The State Auditor's Office would not have functioned in my absence. I was gone a total of 270 days. And in those 270 days, we had folks like Deputy Joe Uhas and Dale Shaft, and the team, which includes Linda that are here. Steve is here, Hugh is here, Jeff is here, Arena is here, June is here, and could you, those that I just named, could you stand up? Because we could not have done it without. So the working title, Improving Government Accountability Even in Financial Crisis. Let the journey begin. I'm going to move through these slides relatively quickly with the hope that at the end we'll have a spirited conversation. What action steps can we take to go from here to the next step? How can we deal with the impending, what I see, tsunami heading to the beach? Some of what you'll hear here today is no surprise. You're financial people, you pay attention, you read, you watch 60 Minutes. But how can we get a 360-degree, unemotional grip on the challenge? The three area of focus is what happened to the U.S., what's happening in Vermont, and reducing budget risk. The challenge we all face when we put a budget together, especially the budget risk in a difficult financial time. At the end of the reducing budget risk conversation, we'll invite two people up here to join me in a quick panel. One is Paul Costello, who's the Executive Director from the Council, Vermont Council on Rural Development. They put together a plan on the Council of the Future of Vermont. Also, we're glad to have with us Tracy Gallo, who's the Director of Workforce Development, Training, Wellness at the Summit at the state level. And we hope you challenge the three of us to say, okay, you've talked about the problem, you've given us some strategies, but how in government do we plan to reform? Change takes planning. Reform takes planning. It doesn't happen in a little vacuum, and it doesn't happen in a couple of weeks. Accountability. Boy, that's a popular word. Transparency, accountability. No two words could be used more these days related to the stimulus package. If we look at a formal definition of accountability, that we are accountable to the people who put us forth to serve them. We're answerable to them not only for the way we spend our money, but the effectiveness. And dissecting this, we want to do it right. And there's no one in this room, and all the time I've spent traveling around the state, sitting with folks from superintendents and